was just hearing Vandana speak about the jobs and whether you should be referring them to us or not. I just want to tell one thing. The accredited employer work visa requires 27.76 per hour to be paid for any migrant to be hired by New Zealand employer. So if that be the case, when somebody asks you back home, you must specify that your skill sets should be such that employer can justify giving you 27.76 per hour in New Zealand. So that sort of will be a good expectation mapping for them.
Are there age limit for people who are
See, ultimately it is the employer's call, right? The employer has to give them salary. So they won't want somebody 70-year-old to be given that salary who cannot justify, whatever job is to be or role is he being asked to do. So obviously, those kind of things. Then that person would also need have a pathway to residence visa. The upper age limit is 55 years. So then again, those things, restrictions are there. So like when somebody speaks to me, I first tell them that what is your expectation? Why do you want to come to New Zealand? What is your expectation? What kind of role do you feel you can perform here? Who would be the employer who would be willing to hire you? Who would be the employer who would be willing to pay you 27.76 per hour for the skill sets that you have now? The job that you are wanting to do in New Zealand, does it require registration? So first, he must understand whether he is required in New Zealand or not. Once that thing is sorted, that he is required in New Zealand, his job is there on the green list, and he has the skill sets to justify not only job. In the green list of occupations, there is also the qualification or the remuneration, whatever be the case, which needs to be met for him to be considered for that occupation that is listed there. So, and nobody has done it till now because these are new rules. Everybody is just putting their head together to understand what the immigration instructions are surrounding the green list. So once we move forward, even immigration is slowly giving amendment to the existing instructions and letting the advisors and the lawyers know as to what changes are. They are also thinking sometimes retrospectively. So we are getting there, but definitely somebody who is thinking of coming to New Zealand, he deserves a chance of at least of being aware what is required here, what is not, so that he can then move on in life. And going by how the conditions are in Sri Lanka, we are being approached by so many applicants on a daily basis.
Yeah, just another thing. So if any of you are known or somebody is thinking of moving to New Zealand or wants to explore option, I would say better to introduce at the initial stage, because there may be 4 options or there may be only one option. So if they are not approached, if they do not approach or if they do not get this insight in the initial phase, they may have unrealistic expectation, or they may end up wasting crucial months and then later realizing maybe that option wasn't available for me. So it's always better if somebody is interested to approach initially, so at least their expectation could be mapped realistically.
Any other questions?
Yes. So, someone who is already working in a apprentice occupation overseas, can they come on a visitor visa to New Zealand and start looking for job in here and going this far?
So somebody who is working in a green list occupation, I understand that person would be skilled. That means that person would have strong occupational commitments if somebody has to prove for a visitor visa. So a person who's working overseas in a good occupation can at any time apply for a visitor visa and come to New Zealand. At the same time, coming to New Zealand for looking for a job is not a valid reason for a visitor visa. So that's not one of the purposes that immigration accepts easily. So, but at the same time, if somebody is working, occupational commitments, want to see a country, definitely yes. But if they say, I am coming to look for a job, that is not one of the purpose that immigration accepts as a genuine visiting purpose.
So the intention of applying for a visa needs to be very clear when you apply. So if the intention is to visit the country as the category of visa suggests, then intention is to visit. So if the intention is to attend an interview by an employer, then declare it as such in your application and let the employer sponsor you who is wanting to call you here for an interview. So that is how immigration sees. So the advisor role is to basically interpret the instructions and let the applicant know or the client know as to how the application would be assessed as per the immigration instructions. The rest, final decision rests with the visa officer.
So, can it be a situation like someone comes to the country for tourism and within first 2 weeks they're falling with the country and wants to stay here? Then can they apply for a job and go for the interview in that case?
Okay, so when you go on the Immigration New Zealand website and type or even Google search, when you go back, there's Google search, can I work on a visitor visa? So there is a page which Immigration New Zealand has anticipated your question and put it there. So it will be there.
Working, just
If you are here, say hypothetically speaking, if somebody has come to visit, say, Queenstown, and he happens to bump into a prospective employer, and they both shake hands, share drinks, and he says, oh, your skill sets are required here, I am willing to offer you a job, right? Perfect. On a visitor visa, you can't work, but nobody stops you from meeting prospective employer. Prospective employer can be anyone.
So theoretically they can.
But if you plan and come,
And that's
that there has been proper planning done that you will meet me on Queenstown on southwest corner. I'll be wearing red shirt, you will be wearing blue shirt, then it becomes a problem.
So I asked a few questions because a lot of people who are living outside New Zealand has the problem to grab an opportunity, like job opportunity. So that's the problem that a lot of people face. Like even though there are like a lot of opportunities, green list or whatever it is, and it's there in New Zealand, but to get a job in New Zealand is the problem because I see a lot of employers they don't like to recruit from outside. So that is so even though that's the text that I see in this green list, like even though you have green list in New Zealand, to grab an opportunity to come to New Zealand from outside is the tricky part. So is there a way?
I'll tell you what, the green list has been brought into practice to resolve that issue, to make things easier for employers to hire overseas workers. So that's actually the intent behind having that list, because immigration also realized that the way their processes were, employers required skilled people, there were no skilled people in their roles that required, and still the process of hiring from overseas was a bit strict and they could not easily hire. So this has been done to ease out that process. So if the person has a skill set, they could be easily hired. Now, the person who's a prospective employee or the person who's looking for a job, they must realize whether their skill set is at that level or maybe still not at that level.
No, let's say he's having their skill set.
Yeah, then this is why the green list has been introduced. So I'm sure those issues will be resolved. So making things easier for employers to hire overseas workers if things are in place. That's why they could do the job check earlier, so they can keep ready. They can then hire anyone. So when the job check is, so these two steps are for everybody. So see, accredited employer getting accreditation is required for everybody, whether they want to hire onshore workers or offshore workers. So it's the same process. Getting a job check done is for everybody. They can get a job check done if they want to hire somebody. Whether that person is onshore or offshore doesn't make any difference. So once the employer has done a job check, Now they have a choice. They can hire somebody from onshore or offshore. Them. They will take that call depending upon the skills that they require. So there's no extra thing for a person who is offshore. So that's why they've kind of streamlined this green list.
So in like let's say if you check the job advertisement in the future, like if an employer here is willing to recruit a person from outside, so they don't maybe they may mention it, right? Even you can apply from outside New
So
Zealand.
now doing the job check becomes the employer's responsibility to hire. So now if they don't want to hire any migrant, then that's a different perspective. In the sense, if they want to hire a New Zealander, then obviously they don't need a job check. But if they want to hire a person who is in New Zealand on a work visa holder or somebody from offshore, the process remains the same. But I think I'm not making things clear.
So basically, see, there are three gateways now. One is the employer's gateway, employee gateway, and the third gateway is whether the matching of the person who is being given the job is matching with the role that he is supposed to perform or not. So that way it is better understood. So first thing is employer accreditation. That over and done with. The second step is the job check application. Job check application basically entails submitting an application to Immigration New Zealand wherein they see as to the labour market check has been done properly or not, and they issue a job token number. With that job token number, you are supposed to be giving that job token number to the employee that you have selected through the border, through the labour market check, whether overseas or in New Zealand, doesn't matter. With that job token number, the person applies for a work visa. That is a simple process. Now, as far as the first two steps are concerned, those steps are supposed to be done by the employer. The employer accreditation, definitely employer. The job check application, definitely employer. What is job check application? Basically, you do the labour market check, you advertise for 2 weeks, you do the interview, this and that, select the best person, and get hold of all the evidence and submit it to Immigration New Zealand. They say, okay, all done, well done. You have advertised the role for 2 weeks. The advertisement contained the role that you wanted that person to fill in. It also contained the pay rate that you want to give to that role, anyone performing that role. All done, good. This is the job token number. With that job token number, you send a mail to the selected candidate that this is the job token number, please apply for the visa. And then the employee or the prospective employee applies for the work visa. During that work visa assessment, the immigration officer checks whether the skills and the qualification / work experience is matching the role which is on offer or not. Am I making sense? So this is what it is.
So hopefully this issue will be resolved because everybody realized it was getting a bit difficult to hire overseas workers and the employers required overseas workers. So this list actually has been made to ease out that process. So hopefully.
So in this case, suppose say somebody somebody is a say project manager, hypothetically speaking, and also has the qualification / experience which are required to fill in that role of project manager. He can apply. But just going by, okay, I am project manager in ABC country and my designation is on the green list, can I apply? I mean, it doesn't work like that. You also have to see, suppose a particular designation is there on the green list, whether that person has the qualification, experience and the registration to fill in that role or not.
Or sometimes just the realistic expectation. If you can't find a job maybe in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, then rather than waiting for a year trying to look for a job and getting frustrated, maybe a student visa is a better option because at least after a year there is an issue. So one has to have that realistic expectation. Where are my skill sets? If I'm able to get a job, I will, within a certain period. If I'm not able to find a job within that certain period, let's have a backup plan rather than just waiting and getting that frustration sense. So
basically, see, it would be better to understand this way that New Zealand government has given out a green list of occupation. They want those green list occupations to be filled, that is quite apparent. But at the same time, they don't want those occupations to be filled by a person who doesn't have the skills and the qualification to be in that role.
Thank you.
We overstretched our time, I do realize that.
Sorry, but she will be